Welcome to Vernacular Verbose, the Jethro Tull podcast. Today is a very special day for us. This is bonus episode number 1, and we have a very special guest, the Feckless Momes, with us today. The Feckless Momes are an American audio network consisting of Nick Magill and Omen Sade. Their podcast, Talk Tull to Me, was the world's first Jethro Tull podcast and has been publishing episodes weekly since 2019. You can follow them on Instagram and all major podcast platforms. Just want to note really quick that if you're listening to this episode through audio, through the podcast platforms, there's actually a video edition of this episode also that you can watch on our YouTube if you'd like. Just look up Vernacular Verbose Jethro Tull podcast on YouTube, and you can see all of our beautiful faces in squares throughout the whole episode. But enough of that. I want to welcome our two guests today, Nick Magill and Omen Sade, the Feckless Momes. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Nick Magill, yeah, not a problem. Thank you for having us.
We're so excited to be here. This is really, a fun kind of roads coming together, and also just a marvel of technology. We are broadcasting from the four corners of the earth, almost literally.
Yeah,
we're all in 3 different time zones.
Yeah, Nick is up in upstate New York. I'm down in the swamplands of Florida in the Americas, and you two are, of course, almost at the antipodes of each other.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, with me in Japan and Eugene in Ukraine, it's a very global operation that we're running here.
Yeah, Omen and I are fortunate to share the same time zone, so it's scheduling for us is a little bit easier. But I imagine for you guys, pinning down times and recording and editing and whatnot, it's a challenge. And that's the even for us, that's the greatest challenge, is figuring out times to get stuff done.
Yeah, it's not too bad for us. We have kind of one time that just happens to work best for both of us.
Great.
The
only one option.
Get kind of hairy. Yeah. So this is very much like, the crossover of Tull podcasts. And of course, we want to say that we have a lot of respect for what you guys did as kind of the trailblazers of the Tull podcast realm. And, we're really excited just in general, of course, about the idea of being able to bring kind of the Tull fan community or fandom or whatever you want to call it, into kind of, I guess, a more modern form of communication with podcasts, things like that. So we're really excited about the interplay, and we're really happy that you guys are, willing to kind of discuss that with us and be part of that with us, in kind of, even if we're in separate, forms of media.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to join you all. And one thing that we always say on Talk Tull to Me is that Nick and I are not Tull experts. We never have claimed to be, and what has sort of developed out of our experience is realizing that we've sort of ended up finding a forum of Tull enthusiasts, and I feel like this is just such an exciting and natural extension of that. So it's lovely to be here.
Yeah, we've learned over the 3 years that we've been doing it that everybody has their own experience with Tull. Everybody has their own interpretation. Everybody has a different Steve Wilson remaster with different snippets of information.
Yeah,
so there's
absolutely.
a 40th, a 50th, whatever. So everybody is sharing the booklet or their first concert or whatever. So it's a coming together, and I'm sure there's a lot with other bands that do this, but Tull is just so mythic, and it's just so satisfying to get everybody to talk about it and share what they know in their own terms.
We've learned how little we know about Jethro Tull.
Yeah,
there's much to know.
There is, and we just kind of conglomerate it all at this point.
So remind us, which album you go album by album, whereas we've been going song by song. So remind me, where are you with Vernacular Verbose right now? What's sort of, what did you just release?
We have just released Heavy Horses, but we've already recorded A.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, and at the time that this episode comes out, we're probably going to be, a little past A, or kind of beginning the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What happened to Stormwatch?
Stormwatch is coming next week as we're recording this.
Okay. Gotcha. We just wrapped up the bonus tracks of Heavy Horses. There were
one more. We got one more.
We're almost wrapping
So
up
close.
bonus tracks of Heavy Horses. There are approximately 1 million of them.
Yeah.
And then we're going to
bonus tracks are loosey-goosey anyway, so.
Right. And then we're going to take a dip into the cold waters of Songs from the North.
Yeah.
No, false. We lumped those together, remember? We lumped Heavy Horses and Songs from the North. Now we're going into Stormwatch.
Nick, I remember nothing. You know this about me.
I'm the one in charge of the schedule, so yeah.
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 I just show up.
We've got one episode left to record of the bonus tracks of Heavy Horses / Songs from the North, all of which falls on different bonus albums throughout the years.
Right.
But we lumped them into Heavy Horses, and then we're getting into Stormwatch. Still cold waters, though, Omen, so it's fine.
It's really impressive to me how you guys, you do each song per episode, and just to be able to spend 45 minutes to an hour just ruminating on one song, that's really impressive. So can you guys tell me a little bit about kind of how you guys approach that? What exactly do you look for in the song? Is it mostly musical? Is it mostly lyrical? Is it kind of both? How do you approach doing that?
Well, it took us some number of episodes to kind of find our format, but what we have arrived at is talking about the song first in terms of music, and often we'll talk about our, if it's a newer song for us, what our first impressions are. If it's a song that's familiar to us, sort of maybe what our history with that song is, because that's a lot of what our approach to our podcast is, because Nick and I have known each other since we were 15 years old, which was an undisclosed number of years ago, and So then we talk about we talk about our relationship to the song. We talk about the music, which we will admit we are not super prepared for or qualified for, because neither of us, unlike you both, neither of us are musicians.
Right.
I think that we have just enough music vocabulary to get into trouble, and then we switch to the lyrics, and I think that that's really probably where our strength lies. Partially because we come from a theater background. We met as actors, and so both of us have studied a fair amount of text analysis, especially from studying Shakespeare. So that's for me the really fun part of discussing the songs, is really breaking down the text, unraveling the metaphors, trying to get into Anderson's head. And then trying to get out of his head before the doom gates close and we're stuck there forever.
Yeah, that's the most fun, challenging part for me is trying to put it into context of where Ian was in his life, where it falls in terms of recording and band members and what's going on for all of them, and the context of the album as a whole. That's the most fun for me. But yeah, that's our strength, is that kind of tearing it down.
We also try to pull in, when we can, anything that any of the band members have said about specific songs. We don't always get super lucky, but I feel like recently we found a number of little tidbits about the song, actually from the mouths of Ian Anderson or some of the other bandmates. And recently, some of our more Epicurean fans have been feeding us information about the songs. Mostly after the fact, where they say, "I can't believe you didn't talk about this," but sometimes they will preemptively give us little tidbits, which is lovely, because we need all the help we can get.
Yeah, I think we're in that sweet spot where there's so much that's been documented about what the band members have said or what Ian has said. So early on, you kind of make assessments and judgments and try to put pieces together. Right now, Songs from the Wood, Heavy Horses, that era, there's a lot. There's so much material that is firsthand material from all sorts of people. I think the further we get into maybe the 80s, it's gonna fall off again, because the mythos, the excitement of those albums they're not as meaty. So we'll be back to kind of putting the pieces together on our own, I think.
But on the other hand, as we go forward in time, there becomes more digital media that was recorded at concurrently with the release of the albums. That's another fascinating thing for us, is to track, and I'm sure you do this album by album, but to sort of track the evolution of the technology that they were playing on. I mean, for me, that's the study of a band that's been around for 50 years is almost a study of the late 20th century, because
technological innovation. Yeah.
Well, really, because you start with them basically playing electric versions of acoustic instruments, and then and then you see the arrival of Mellotron, and then the synthesizer, and and then switching to digital recording, the drum machine, absolutely. So it's really exciting to see that, and of course, that's also reflected in the lyrics. Ian is such an observational writer. He really is documenting the world around him in such an extraordinary way, with his perspective, of course. But it's almost for me like Charlie Chaplin. You can learn so much about the early 20th century through watching Charlie Chaplin films, because he was so perceptive about sort of understanding what was around him and putting that into his art.
I think that Ian became more of that in the 80s. There's much more observation. There's much more focus on the world around him. Beginning with A, it feels like, because in the 70s there was more of fantasy rumination. There was was probably more story focused, not necessarily on the things that were surrounding him. While it feels like there are more stories in the songs from 1980 and forward.
Yeah, he buries stuff in allegory and fairy tale. It's still observational, I think, but it's way more embedded. Where you're right, it does, that kind of facade fades away, and it's really just kind of commentary at that point. I'm thinking of four-wheel drive and basically anything off of A or Under Wraps, really.
Yeah, I think it's kind of things like Tull's lyrics are one of those things that it comes to kind of like a bigger, broader issue of why we love this band to begin with. Yes. Because, it's not just that, it's a good lyrics or whatever, but something that we've talked about in our podcast sometimes is we can't believe that there was a rock band, a popular rock band at that time, who were writing songs about things like the heavy horses of old Britain, or like the minstrel in the gallery, or whatever it is. And that's kind of the thing. I'd like to hear you guys kind of give your opinions on this as well. Is just the reason that we're drawn to Tull. There's many reasons, of course, but that's one of the reasons, is that only somebody like Ian Anderson, who has kind of not just the showmanship, not just the musicianship, but also the intellect and the interest to pursue subjects like that, which you would never hear any other rock band doing. That's one of the things that I think has always drawn us to them, and I'd imagine it's probably similar for you guys as well.
Yeah, we talk about that fairly often, that for us, Jethro Tull is sort of the music of the intellectual working peoples of the world. There's so many different entries into it. It has such there's such a theme of the working life in so many different ways. There's such a theme of the day-to-day existence, but it is approached with such this incredible blistering intelligence that I think there's a reason that Jethro Tull wasn't as popular as it hasn't been as popular as like Led Zeppelin, because anyone who has a pulse can appreciate the kind of raw sex drive of Led Zeppelin.
Even if it's high fantasy, like talking about Mount Doom, like there's cojones there. Yeah.
It's very sex fighting survival. It appeals to the baser human instincts, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. It's amazing. I love Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
But Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull have some appeal to that side of things, but also I think really, as you've said, bring these complex topics to rock and roll, and I think that's what kind of makes it for me. Prague is it's really like it's a melding of sort of the intellectualism of almost classical literature and classical music with the tools of rock and roll. There's a wonderful interview. I don't know if you've heard it on the Rock on Tour podcast that came out recently, where these two gentlemen interview Ian Anderson, and it's a fabulous interview. I think it's one of the best Ian Anderson interviews I've ever heard. I think because they're musicians, he feels very comfortable talking to him. But he describes his songwriting in terms of painting, and he says, some people paint portraits, and it's all about this is the person, this is their kind of their psychology and their essence. Some people paint landscapes, and it's all very far removed and very beautiful. And he says, I sort of am in between. I like to paint figures in a landscape, and it makes so much sense when you listen to his songs, because you really you see the background, you see the environment, and then you see the figure in it, and it's very contextual. And I don't know, there's something almost who is the Dutchman who did all the painting?
Rembrandt?
Well,
Rembrandt.
Oh, there it is.
There's something
I thought he was French. Oh. That shows what I know.
Maybe he was.
He was
Rembrandtian.
totally Dutch.
I'm going to do something that we normally do on Feckless Momes and do an analogy based on food.
Yes.
Zeppelin is like a chocolate eclair. Like, it's a flavor bomb. It's one note. It's great when you experience it. Tull is a tiramisu. It's layered. It's delicate. There's depth. You get, the further you go down, the more satisfying it is, but it's not too overbearing on the palate or the stomach.
Okay, I'm going to do the savory version.
But they're both enjoyable. The what version?
I'm going to do the savory version.
Oh, please.
Okay. Led Zeppelin is a duck cracklin.
Ooh, okay. I like it.
You eat it and it just explodes in your mouth, and it's just like blah, and all the duck fat just drips down you and makes you feel so dirty and so good at the same time. Jethro Tull is like a delicately saffroned risotto, where there are, there's the wine element, there's the shallots, there's a little bit of fresh herbs, and you really have to like sit with it and meditate upon it to appreciate it. If you eat it too fast, what are you doing? You're not gonna get all the individual flavors.
I thought you were going to go with a turducken there, the multiple layers of poultry stuffed inside one another. Complex in a way.
I think it's one of those things that also, like, it makes it difficult to recommend Tull to somebody, just in the sense of it can be difficult sometimes to figure out what the proper entry point is, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many different eras, there's so many different styles, and particularly you probably don't want to recommend Thick as a Brick or Passion Play to someone who's never heard the band before, depending on the person, so it can be kind of difficult to figure out the entry point that way.
That's a difficult question, because I think it ultimately depends on the person that you're trying to introduce, because Tull does have that wide array that you can kind of pull different pieces and say, like, my wife does not like Tull at all, but there are one or two songs that she will listen to. So I need to know what songs I can introduce her to. At this point, she's spoiled. She can't hear any Tull because I play it so much. But for the unacquainted, you got to know their tastes, and generally you can pull out one or two songs, I think.
One of the things that we have enjoyed discovering on Talk Tull to Me is people have been writing into us and telling us their entry point to Tull. We call it their jumpstart. And there's a theme that kind of runs through it. Most often what it is someone saying, hey, listen to this album. No explanation. No oh, you like this? I think you'll like this. Just somebody saying, here's an album, listen to it. And I think, and that's what happened to me. A friend of mine in high school was like, you know what? I'm going to give you this album. It was Aqualung. It was a burned CD of Aqualung. And there was no explanation, which is funny. With some bands, you could say like, oh, you like 70s glam rock? You love wheedly guitar and crazy high notes? You're going to love The Darkness. Or like, oh, you like folk rock? You're going to love this. You can't do that with Tull. You just have to say, here, I know, I see you in your soul that there is something that you need from this music.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are three entry points to Tull, I think, that are most common. Someone just, like Omen said, someone handing you the disc. An older brother or sister having listened to it, and you inherit the album or you inherit the taste. Or, I think, more common in our generation is you find your parents' old cassettes or albums. That's how I got into Tull. I found the Lime Green War Child and Aqualung, Thick as a Brick, and Songs from the Wood. And of course I fell into Songs from the Wood very hard, but
Yeah,
And of
totally.
course-
I told a similar story on our podcast, but the way that I got into Tull for the most part, it was all through my parents, and it never would have happened if not for them. And specifically, my dad had a couple of old cassettes, like from the 70s, 80s, that kind of thing, that he would play in the car, and that was pretty much how I got into it. So I think that's very true.
Yeah, my dad introduced me to Tull as well, and we had the Soviet issue of the original masters with the Cyrillic text on the cover. So instead of Jethro Tull, it said Jethro Tull.
Oh my god!
Oh, that's so cool.
You don't still have that, do you?
And my favorite song was "Bungle in the Jungle" because my English left much to be desired at that point, but I could totally get behind "I'm a tiger and I'm a snake."
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna learn English from a rock band, Jethro Tull is
absolutely, yeah,
could be a great. I mean, that's another thing that I enjoyed so much about Tull, and I know that Nick does too. We're both sluts for language. Can I say that on your podcast? We both really enjoy language.
Word nerds, yeah.
And etymology. So, Ian's use of, just his vocabulary and his use of grammar and his subtlety with turn of phrase is so appealing to us. Whereas the thing that we always rag on is, if you learned English from Bon Jovi, you'd end up with a fifth grade reading level.
Yeah. Which, you know what? No judgments.
Hey, I love Bon Jovi.
Fifth grade reading levels. A little judgment on Bon Jovi, but for the most part, it's okay. Whatever.
It's okay.
Whatever
we can do
revs
a
your
judgment
steel horse
on Bon Jovi. I think Joey sometimes gets annoyed by Ian's vocabulary choices.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking about that today, actually, because I was in the train and I was listening to something from Too Old to Rock and Roll came on my shuffle, and I remembered in our episode for Too Old to Rock and Roll, it was Quiz Kid is what I was listening to. And on that album specifically, there's some times where I thought the vocabulary is a little too much, But I mean, in general, I don't have a lot of complaints about Ian's lyrics.
I think you didn't like the use of the word cranium.
Yeah. There's just some times where I just think, like, did it really have to be that word? I mean, was there really no other way to put that? But
I think that's what's so fascinating about Tull is that, that I keep coming back to it's a prog rock band. It's rock and roll had been established, and now people like Ian Anderson said, "All right, this exists. Where can we push this? What are the outer limits of this?" And when you experiment and when you push toward limits, you don't always discover something wonderful, but you always discover something. And so that's for me. Even the songs where I'm like, nah, I don't care for it. I appreciate the boldness of going into this, sort of bizarre territory and really, testing the limits of rock and roll. Because without prog, we could have just ended up with 3 power chords and a bunch of love songs, which nothing wrong with.
And remember that Too Old was going to be theoretically was going to be a stage play. And we know Ian's love for pageantry, so I have a feeling that there is he kind of upped it even more. And of course, he took rock and pushed it further. What stage play, what stage musical would have the word cranium in it? Of course, he's going to push that further too. Mm-hmm. That's my thought on his verbosity.
I feel like Sondheim. Okay, sorry, Eugene.
Yeah, right.
I think, one of the things that prog rock did was address topics that rock and roll never did before. And but the thing about Tull is the width, the breadth of the topics that Ian talked about. Because if you look at other prog bands, like another brilliant lyricist, Peter Hamel, from Van de Graaff Generator. He's a fantastic lyricist, but I think his main focus is sort of inner turmoil. Right? It's very his lyrics are all incredibly introverted.
Sure.
And if you look at Yes, it's just, I don't know, piles of feel-good philosophy loosely fitted together. But with Ian, it's like the coolest thing is that you never know. You never know what's the next song is going to be about.
Yes.
Well, that's also the thing with Ian is he says he is, to this day he has stated that there have only been like 2, maybe 3 songs that have been personal to him. Yeah. Everything else is he's writing that story. He does it damn well. Like he embodies that character, that narrator every single time, and he tells that story with so much explanation and so much evocation. But it's a story. That's all it is. But he does it darn well. He's a bard, is what he is.
I like that. I think that's a good comparison. Comparisons have sometimes been drawn between the troubadours of medieval Europe and modern rock and roll stars, and I think that I think that's not a bad comparison necessarily. They're advocates of love, and I think that comparing Ian to a bard is fantastic, because it is more of that grand narrative, oral tradition, something really of intellectual value that's being communicated, and almost a keeper of ancient secrets.
Yeah, only he can tell that tale.
That's right.
One thing I'd like to go back to, talking about the purpose behind a Tull podcast and things like that, the way that we saw it, and I imagine you guys kind of feel the same, I'd like to hear about it, is that in the Tull fan community, and this is mostly the Tull online fan community, because of course that's where it's most active, there's very much kind of a generational shift or a generational gap there, just because of course Tull is a fairly old band, and so much of the listenership, much of the fan base is around that age. And so for me, I mean, we kind of felt that there was an opportunity there, that there's a much older Tull fan base, which is most of the fan base, but I mean, inevitably there's younger fans like us and things like that. And so kind of the goal of what we wanted to help do was we wanted to try to bridge any of those kind of generational gaps. We wanted to connect the entire Tull fan community in different forms of media. And that's kind of what we see, honestly, I mean, kind of the goal of our whole podcast in my mind. It's not just to go through and analyze every album or talk about this or that, but we want to help in kind of this discourse between the different fans in the community. And that's why I'm really happy that you guys were interested in coming on and talking to us, because to me that's part of what this is all about, is it's connecting with you guys. We can connect with older fans, with fans who are even younger than us, and we can help kind of really build out this community so it's much more connected and kind of much more intimate, I suppose.
I think it's fascinating and laudable that you all had a goal in mind when you started your podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know that we had one.
It's safe to say that we knew going in that it would be niche. This was a passion project for us, because it had been so long since Omen and I had created something on a creative level. We used to do physical theater all the time, and since life happened and we moved into different areas, we didn't have that.
Life happened so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, did life happen? But this gave us the opportunity, and this is the one of the few things that we could really hammer on and know that there was no other. There was nothing else like it out there, so we kind of jumped into it.
Well, and another aspect that I think we were a little bit inspired by is, the experience of being a Tull fan. I think a lot of probably our listeners, all of our listeners can relate to, is when you like Jethro Tull, it is damn hard to find someone to talk to about it, because there are, in any given group of people, there are not that many people who are really into Jethro Tull, but the people who are into Jethro Tull are really into Jethro Tull. So Nick and I were lucky growing up that we met each other and could talk about these songs. And I think that for a lot of people, their experience of loving Jethro Tull was kind of a solitudinous, if you will forgive the word choice, Joey, experience. And so part of what we wanted to do is to give an opportunity for people to talk Tull, or to hear us talk Tull at least, and feel that there was some kind of community there, regardless of age.
Yeah, we were not terribly active, and by terribly I mean at all. We were not active at all in the online space with Tull.
No.
We kind of just jumped in without even knowing much about what was already going on behind the scenes. I don't do social media, and Omen doesn't do much social media, particularly when it comes
I'm
to
still not
Facebook.
very active. I mostly just lie there.
Yeah, he just takes pictures of him sleeping in bed. A lot of likes, for what it's worth, but I mean...
There's a lot of perverts out there, Nick.
Sickos. But that being said, we've kind of started dipping our toes in, and I think that's where you guys really took advantage of it. You were both active in there. That's where you met, on that Facebook group, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had that advantage, and I think that's really where your overarching theme and goal really becomes more selfless. Like you guys are doing a selfless act in trying to collect everybody into a more unified Tull experience, whereas Omen and I, even if we had 2 listeners today and I was one of them, we'd still be happy because we still have to do our podcast, you know.
That's right.
But now that we've created something of a following, it is nice to consider ourselves a part of that community. It is.
I think that was sort of the most shocking thing. Some number of episodes in, we had a tracking program to show our listenership, and the sudden discovery that people were listening to our podcast was a terrible shock to both of us. We were like, oh my god.
Boy, we really got to make this work now.
Yeah, well, I think there may have not been too selfless a desire when when we created the podcast. I think one of the things that was sort of the internal drivers of this was that we both like order, and an online discussion is an incredibly chaotic thing. So
Sure.
we sort of wanted a more orderly fashion in a discussion, and a dialogue is where it's at. I was wondering about another thing, for the benefit of our respective listeners of both podcasts, and also because I know nothing about you guys in this regard. We all 4 of us love Tull, but we also like other kinds of music, and I know that I know what Joey likes, right? But I think we could all briefly talk about what other things in music we like and we enjoy, and kind of look at this 4-dimensional starfish that has intersects in Jethro Tull between the 4 of us.
Interesting. Yeah.
Nick?
So how about you guys? How about you, Omen?
I'll defer to Nick on this for a moment.
Okay. Yeah. So I've got a couple of go-tos that fortunately my wife does not cringe at when I put them on regularly. So I go to Murder by Death, which is it's like a Johnny Cash-esque kind of rocky, bluesy country. They have a cello. They have a rock cello. The cellist Sarah is amazing. I love Murder by Death. If you have to get started on a single song by Murder by Death, go to the song Brother off their album In Boca al Lupo. It's mind-blowing. I go to Carbon Leaf regularly because they're a nice folk. They're a nice easy folk that we can listen to. I like the Decemberists, who are proggy, folk, rocky. Everybody likes the Decemberists. Those are kind of my standards. I'm sure I have a couple more, but if I'm looking for an album to play and I don't want something new, it's usually that lineup. And if my wife's not here, it's Tull. But other than that, it's one of those other guys.
Yeah. For me, I said I'm not a musician, and that's true, but I have played music at various points in my life, and so I think that my exposure to music has been fairly broad. I grew up listening to a fair amount of classical music and playing some Baroque pieces on the flute, and I had a lot of exposure to folk music from my parents, especially from my dad and my brother, who both my dad plays and builds guitars, and my brother played the harp for many years. So I got a wonderful musical exposure from them, and for a long time, my musical taste was pretty firmly rooted in centuries past, and so over the last 10 or 20 years, it's been, discovering rock and roll has been kind of amazing. I think Jethro Tull is pretty much the first rock band that I really listened to. And I was kind of like, oh, this is great. What else is out there? And I do love Led Zeppelin. I don't listen to them much now. I love bluegrass. I listen to quite a lot of bluegrass. And I used to play the mandolin, so I played a fair amount of bluegrass music. And, in recent years, in the last probably 7 years, I've gotten really into pop music. I really, I love Katy Perry. I love, all the modern pop stars, some of the modern pop stars, and then discovering living in New York. Someone exposed me to the Wu-Tang Clan, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Talking about language, 90s hip hop is just such a rich palette of the use of language and the use of a different approach to storytelling. So I'm a little bit all over the place, but can't go wrong with Katy Perry, can't go wrong with Todrick Hall. I love it all.
I think Joey will agree with you on the 90s hip hop, won't you, Joey?
Yeah, I really listen to everything, really. I guess my kind of weird quirk is that I don't really listen to much rock music at all. I kind of grew up like a lot of kids, kind of, I guess, my age from where I'm from, where I grew up as kind of an alternative rock kid, where my favorite bands growing up were like The Strokes and Blur, Gorillaz, that kind of thing. But as I got older, I kind of left rock behind, even though that's most of what my background is in, and actually playing music. And the number one genre that I've listened to probably in the last several years since college or high school has been hip-hop. And hip-hop is a huge genre for me. I think, objectively speaking, 90s hip-hop is kind of, the peak of the genre. But I actually listen to modern... Yeah. But I actually listen to modern trap stuff, too, which I know a lot of people find that unbelievable that you can enjoy both of those things simultaneously. But I really have a big love of jazz also. I particularly love really early jazz, like 20s, 30s, New Orleans, Dixieland type stuff.
Yeah.
So I really listen to mostly everything, but not so much rock. I had a phase kind of in high school where I was a huge shoegaze fan, My Bloody Valentine and that kind of thing. And that's still like really special music for me, but rock is definitely one of my least listened to, at least in the past 5 or 6 years or so.
Joey, how do you feel about the Digital Underground?
What's that?
That's a hip hop joint out of they were West Coast. Shock G, aka Humpty Hump, and that's where Tupac Shakur got his start.
Okay, that sounds familiar. I'm actually not a huge Tupac guy personally. I guess I don't buy into the whole West Coast versus East Coast thing, but probably most of what I listen to is more East Coast.
Gotcha. They're worth checking out. They're really
my top
fun.
3 hip hop groups of all time are like Tribe Called Quest, MF Doom, and De La Soul are like my top 3 probably.
Oh, nice.
So since we have all 4 of us here, I'd like real quickly just to go around and have everybody kind of give their favorite Tull album and give the reasoning behind it. I'm curious if we have any overlap here.
Nick?
Okay. Omen has volunteered me. I'm going to say Benefit. It's an impossible task to choose a favorite Tull album. I've got at least 5. But Benefit it was the one that I listened to the most in my formative years. I think it was the first one that I got that wasn't like taken from my dad, from his albums or his cassettes. So it was like my first Tull album. It's definitely the black sheep of Tull. Like it's this weird, It doesn't fit anywhere. It doesn't even act as a very good transition between stand up and Aqualung. It's super, exactly, Eugene. It veers around. It feels like it should come probably after Aqualung, maybe. if we're lucky. It doesn't make any sense. And it's also the one that Omen and I bonded on the most. It's the one that we listened to over and over and over in either one of our cars. I think I probably made him a copy on a cassette that we listened to. I had the cassette, and we just listened to it over and over, and that's where we got into Tull together as well. So yeah, that one is the most important to me. And if I had to take one to a desert island, it would be Benefit. I'm constantly hearing new things. I'm constantly experiencing new emotions when I listen to that album still.
There's so many new things you can hear on that because it's so layered and kind of chaotic, kind of jammy. I absolutely love Benefit. It's a brilliant album.
Yeah, we called it a Dark Horse album on our episode, and I think that fits it pretty well.
Okay, if you did, I called it Tull's only psychedelic album.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Well, you can't beat a Dark Horse. I have a really soft spot for that album. As Nick said, it was, we experienced it at a very influential time for us. And Nick, you totally did burn me a cassette tape of it that I played in my mom's 1991 Toyota Corolla. And, the warbling of the kind of psychedelic aspect of it was enhanced by me wearing the tape out to the point that some of the tracks would warble because of the tape itself. Yeah. And so it's such a specific sound that whenever I hear it, I can smell the summertime in upstate New York. But for me, favorite albums, Songs from the Wood really, really resonates with me. It's really something that it just, when I heard that, I felt like it was, I grew up in the woods, literally. I grew up in a cabin in the woods that my dad built, and I didn't have access to a lot of media for most of my young age. I always joke that I spent most of my time whittling sticks, but it's not really a joke. Nick knows what Nick can attest to this. He's seen my.
I've seen the sticks. Yeah.
You have some of them. I've whittled you a stick. So Songs from the Wood really appeals to me on that level because it really speaks to my really early formative existence. But that being said, I just love Catfish Rising. I know it's a kind of a weird choice, but there's something about the quality of it that I just adore.
Yeah.
Fall in bed and kick your shoes away.
Oh my God, I love that song. I love Rocks on the Road. Eugene, what about your favorite album?
My permission slip from the Asylum must be somewhere around. My favorite album is A Passion Play.
No, that's great.
Yes.
No, dude, no shame in A Passion Play.
And one of the reasons is because I do like really complex stuff, and I've loved A Passion Play from the moment I heard it first when I was a teenager. So it wasn't an acquired taste. It was something I was absolutely into. And when I first heard Thick as a Brick and The Passion Play, I thought, yes, album length songs. That's where it's at. But another reason I like A Passion Play over Thick as a Brick, for example, is it's kind of surprising because quite recently I came across a review. Someone did a write-up on A Passion Play. I think they posted it on the Facebook Tull page or something, and they quoted someone, a critic from the 70s probably, and they agreed with that critic that album, they expressed a notion that the album was devoid of emotion. And it's sort of how it's the opposite of what I think about when I think of A Passion Play. It's such an incredibly emotional album for me.
It has passion in the title.
Yes, exactly, and it does things to me. It when I listen to that album through from the beginning to end, I'm left kind of wrung out completely. It's a cathartic experience. And
I think when people
I sometimes cry when I listen to it. So it's
I
think when people say, I don't like Tull or I don't like this Tull album, what they mean is I am devoid of the emotional complexity which would allow me to enjoy this album.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on The Hare Who Lost His Spectacles? Could you take it or leave it? It might be controversial here that I would be more than happy to just pluck that out and put it somewhere else. Maybe at the end of the album.
I can't think of A Passion Play without the hair.
I know.
We both like it.
it gives such a brilliant counterpoint. It gives a moment of respite, among the incredibly passionate, incredibly, what's the adjective that goes with turmoil? It's that
tumultuous.
Tumultuous. Thank you. Moments in that story, and to have that completely absurd, completely ridiculous radio play about silly animals, that absurd Monty Python-esque moment in the middle. It's the perfect balance,
It's exactly
to what that album is.
It's like if you had a roast duck for your first course and a suckling pig for your second course. You need a grapefruit sorbet between them to cleanse the palate, so you can appreciate them both. Otherwise, it's just meat.
But it's not. It's not a grapefruit
is like my Friday
sorbet.
night.
It's like a grapefruit cotton candy. It's more absurd than a sorbet.
It's a sorbet that's,
to me, it's
served upside down.
Yeah, there you go.
It's one of those things that just other bands would never have the balls to do something like that.
Yeah.
Like to just put this completely absurd nonsense thing in the middle of this otherwise very, serious and philosophical album or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I respect Tull for.
It's their most Python moment, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Joey, what about your favorite album?
It's just kind of the flip side of Eugene's coin, which if I had to pick one, I would say Thick as a Brick. And I have kind of a childhood story associated with that album, which I've told a couple times on our show, so I won't repeat it in detail here. But I discovered that album at just kind of the perfect time in my adolescence, and it just kind of completely transformed my view of what music could be. And it's an album that I never, ever get tired of hearing. When I hear it today, it still gives me the same goosebumps I did all the way back then. So that's the one that I would pick.
Yeah, I think those are worthy choices, definitely. And I think they are choices of true Tull aficionados to pick the two concept albums. Really, they're just so good. They're so meaty. They're so good. And I know everybody has their own favorite. And every time anyone says, "Oh, this is my favorite," I'm like, "Oh, maybe that's my favorite too." But it's. I mean, they're all just so good. They're all so darn good.
Yeah. That's one thing that I'm glad you brought that up, Nick. That's the one thing that we try to remember, especially going song by song, because sometimes we encounter a song that one of us doesn't like, or both of us don't like, and it would be tempting to slag it off or to point out its faults or the faults that we perceive in it. But what we try to remind ourselves of is that every single song, no matter if it's a random half put together bonus track or if it's a famous radio hit, that is someone's favorite song. That is someone out there, that is their favorite song. And so we try to approach each song with respect. Even if we don't particularly like it, we know that someone out there, that is a deeply meaningful song to them.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Tull songs and Tull in general is it's generally meaningful. It's not just like, oh, that's an earworm, I like that. There's something more. There's something embedded in that for that person.
Yes.
Very quickly before we go on, I'd like to go around, just kind of a lightning round, and everybody give their most unpopular Tull opinion, the one that won't get you flamed online forever.
I already expressed my unpopular Tull opinion on our podcast, and it's already out there. It's Songs from the Wood is too cheerful.
Okay. Just because of the progression of those folk pieces, by the time we get to Stormwatch, it's all doom and gloom.
Yeah, because I like Stormwatch most of the three folk albums, and I like Songs from the Wood the least of them. So.
Wow. Okay.
And not because it's musically bad, it's just the mood. I just don't connect with all the prancing around stuff.
Yeah. It was very prancy then, yeah. I think mine would be, if I never hear Aqualung or Locomotive Breath again, I won't be upset.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, we've heard them enough, that's true.
Yeah. So maybe that's not that controversial, but but I mean, they're the songs that they play pretty much every they play at least one of them every single concert. Ian probably plays them in his sleep at this point. But it's I've heard them. We've all heard it.
I guess mine would be that the inclusion of the 1980s synthesizer I find delightful. I think it's charming, and I think it was appropriate.
It is.
And I like the sound of it.
Are we talking like electronic drum machine and everything, or just the kind of the slow introduction and the electric violin and all those pieces?
That whole sound, the whole sound of the early '80s, I just think is delightful, and I love it. So
I think charming is a good word for it. Yeah.
I know that some people find it kind of trashy or regrettable. I think it's I think the worst thing I could say about it is that it's camp.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. I love it.
So my unpopular opinion is fairly related, and it is that I genuinely love Under Wraps, the album. And we're doing our Under Wraps album soon, so I'll be a little tight-lipped on that, so I'm saving some stuff for our audience. But that's the one that for sure gets me the weirdest looks online.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I'm not so familiar with Under Wraps, actually. I'm obviously we'll get to it eventually, probably in 2023, but or maybe not that soon. But I'm excited to. That's one thing that's been fun about this process is really discovering all of the little missing links and things that I wasn't super into previously.
Yeah. For the record, Talk Tull to Me will be covering Under Wraps starting 8/30/2022. So just under a year away.
It's nice to know what you're going to be doing in a couple of years.
Yeah, we know. I've got the full list in any of our show notes. If you want to check out the publishing list of Talk Tull to Me, it's there. Of course, it's going to change when Zealot Gene comes out, and Ian has said that the final Steve Wilson remix of Broadsword is going to have like 20 unreleased tracks. So that's going to stretch stuff out, but we'll...
Feckless Momes broadcasting to you from the nursing home.
Forever.
Yeah, so about the 80s albums, we just recorded our episode for A, and we both are not massive fans of it. We found things on it that we like. We found things on it that we don't like. So for you, I think probably if you happen to listen to it, you skip the discussion of Four-Wheel Drive, because I think you like that song.
I'm curious.
I love that song.
So don't listen to what we have to say on it. And but then I think we'll have two episodes. We'll both of us alternately defend an album.
Nice.
Because I really love Broadsword. I think I will find it difficult to find a song on it I don't like. And Joey really likes Under Wraps, so it's going to be a very interesting couple episodes.
Now, Joey, do you not like Broadsword, and Eugene, do you not like Under Wraps, or are you just kind of playing devil's advocate?
Oh no, I mean, my view on Broadsword basically is like, I don't think it's great. I think there's parts of it that are really boring, but I think there's other parts of it that I like just as much. So it's kind of a, I take what I like from it. That's kind of what I feel about it.
Yeah, it's when Tull started to get a little kind of middle of the roady, I think, just in terms of their trajectory. But I do like Broadsword, so.
So we had an idea. Since the four of us are here, we have four kind of super Tull fans here. We wanted to do some Tull trivia. So I guess this is where we need kind of like the radio voice section beginning, the Tull trivia, that kind of thing. So we all wrote up a bunch of questions, all four of us ahead of time, and we're basically just going to see, I guess, who the super Tull fan among us is.
This is going to be embarrassing for everyone.
Yeah. So should we go kind of round robin?
Yeah.
Who wants to start? Who's the youngest?
I'm pretty sure I'm the youngest. I'd be amazed if I wasn't.
All right, Joey, do you want the first question, or do you want to give the first question?
Give me the first question. I'll take it.
All right. I guess I'll go first then.
Do it, Nick.
Which album did Dee Palmer gain official billing as a member of the band?
Songs from the Wood.
Yes, very good.
Wow.
She was credited as providing orchestral arrangements 9 times, and then finally gained credit as a member 6 times after that. Only 2 of them, but 2 of them were live. So technically 4 albums under her belt.
Yeah, Dee Palmer actually joined on the Too Old to Rock and Roll tour, but wasn't an official member for a recording until Songs from the Wood.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Eugene, do you want to give Nick a question now?
Yeah, I would. Nick, which one of Jethro Tull musicians teaches at Berklee College of Music?
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Is it Clive?
No.
No, I don't know. That's a good one.
Would you want to pass this question around?
Do you have any hints? Can I get a hint?
I imagine it's got to be one of the keyboardists.
No.
No?
That person is chair of bass.
Oh.
Well, we can rule some of them out.
Yeah, right. Is it Glenn? Can't be Glenn Cornick.
A more recent one, probably.
Yes, it's a recent bass player.
I'm not up on the more recent staff. If anyone else wants it, go for it.
My guess would be Jonathan Noyce.
Untrue.
Who is it?
It's Steve Bailey.
Oh, I don't even know who Steve Bailey is.
So yeah. If I wanted to be really crotchety, I could raise a little flag and say he's a session musician, not a member, but I won't do that.
He's credited on Roots to Branches. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
All right, Eugene, I've got a question for you.
Yeah, that's much too recent for me. Yeah.
Ian and Shona's daughter, Gail, is married to what star of a popular American drama/horror television series?
Oh, I don't remember their name. I'm going to pass. I'm not going to remember her husband's name.
Do you know the series though?
I would have remembered her husband's name if I had seen the series, but no, it's someone who plays in somewhere I hadn't seen.
Joey?
You're looking for the name of the husband?
Yeah, I would also accept the name of the series in which he starred.
Andrew Lincoln on The Walking Dead.
Oh, very
Yeah,
nice.
nice.
Well done. A British actor. Plays an American, obviously, but is a Brit.
Never watched it in my life, but I know that.
Once you've seen one episode, you've seen them all. So
Yeah,
it's a lot of the
Zombies.
same. Yeah.
All right, I guess I'm the next victim. I'm the next
Okay,
Omen.
Joey, right? Yeah.
In a passion play, what is the full name of the protagonist according to the record booklet? Liner notes.
Oh God, a passion play. Oh my God, all I'm thinking is Ray Lamas.
No.
That's so incorrect. Give me a hint. What's it begin with? What's the letter?
R.
Can I buy a vowel?
Is it three names or is it just the first and the surname?
First name and last name.
Okay, yeah.
What's the first letter of the last name?
P.
Think about it as a Dante allegory.
Oh my gosh. I do not remember. Ron. Is it Ron something?
Close.
Close.
Ronald, Rupert. What's the second? D. What? P.
P.
Purgatorio. Pilgrim. No. Pellegrino. Yes, I'm close, aren't I?
You pretty much
incredibly close.
Yeah.
Ronald Pilgrim. What is it?
Shall we give it to him?
Yeah.
Ronnie. It's Ronnie.
Ronnie Pilgrim. Oh, right.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. You got the full names.
Yeah, that's impressive. His Christian name, on his birth certificate is
Yeah.
Ronald Pilgrim, so it's okay.
Gotcha.
You went from not knowing it at all to pretty much getting it. That's pretty
You got
impressive.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ray Lamas. You said Ray Lamas. I believe Ray Lamas was the person Ronnie Pilgrim was reincarnated into.
Oh, here you go.
Ooh, nice. I like it.
All right, next round.
That's me to Joey. Let's see. What is the very unique type of synthesizer used in a 1979 blues track named after that instrument?
1970s blues track.
Yeah.
So this must be a bonus track, I'm guessing.
It is. And it's not John Evan playing the synthesizer.
Oh, that's wicked, Nick.
I know. The track was an untitled blues number on the 20 Years compilation album and a bonus track found on the Heavy Horses Steve Wilson re-release.
So I'm just going to name all the Heavy Horses bonus tracks off the top of my head. So there's Botanic Man, there's Horse Hoeing Husbandry, Man of God, I think.
Yep.
But none of those sound like instrument names.
No.
I'm not a gearhead, so this is a weak point for me.
Yeah, this is a super deep cut. And the only reason we know about it is we just recorded the episode like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
Everything in Our Lives, Beltane. I think I'm going to pass. I don't know.
All right, Eugene, you get a chance because Omen knows it.
No,
I don't. I forget.
And I'm
You
not
don't?
up on my Heavy Horses bonus tracks. So
It is the Lyricon Blues.
Lyricon.
I completely forgot about that. I never would have got that.
The Lyricon is an
good
incredible
song.
instrument that you should look up.
Yeah.
It is essentially what did we joke? What did we say, Nick? It's the
the love child of the mellotron and the claghorn.
yes, exactly.
It's super absurd. Yeah, it's basically it's an electric saxophone, I guess. Basically, I mean, it's a synthesizer played like a saxophone.
Yes, it is
Like an
a
Iwi.
wind. Maybe, yeah. It is a wind powered, wind operated synthesizer. Yeah,
oh, fantastic.
it's
Also,
really
a really
cool.
song. Yeah,
All right, next, Eugene.
Eugene to me. Yeah.
Okay. Jethro Tull is named after the inventor of the seed drill. But which other famous innovator did Ian write a song about?
Ooh.
Ooh, famous innovator.
Famous
Yeah.
innovator. What era
Yeah.
of the song?
That's giving it away.
Oh, okay. Well, Botanic Man was written about a TV show host who did like nature documentaries.
That's true.
It's an innovator. I can't think of anything.
A hint would be there's a word which I deliberately did not use in this question. I said inventor and I said innovator. There's another word that would have given basically the song away.
Engineer, creator,
March
designer.
the Mad Scientist. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, another hint was I said Ian write a song about and not Jethro Tull had a song about.
Oh, if it's an Ian solo, I'm lost. I don't know his solo work.
I really like this question because it's got an answer that's a very popular pub quiz answer, especially
really?
in Britain. Yes, the answer is Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
Oh my gosh. What's the song called?
The song is called The Engineer, and it's an homoeroticus.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and Isambard
I'm
Kingdom
familiar
Brunel,
with that,
if you don't really know that character, he was a mad 19th century British engineer who built bridges, tunnels, who created a flat pack hospital for Florence Nightingale. And that person had an amazing life, and I urge you to look it up.
All right, Eugene, I've got one.
Cool.
I've got one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the only track off of Tull's 1999 album jtull.com to feature a female vocalist?
I hear it in my head. Let me just... I think it's .com.
You are correct. Yeah, well done. Yeah,
Nice.
that is that features, and it's rare within the Tull discography to have a female vocalist, but that song features Najma Akhtar, who is a British-born singer of Indian descent who did a lot of work taking traditional Indian singing and bringing it into a modern context. I think it sounds the tits.
It absolutely does. Yeah, I immediately heard the melody in my head. I just had to pin it down to which song that was.
Yeah, well done.
What's the other one? Can anyone think of the other song that has a female vocalist?
It's early.
Too Old to Rock and Roll does.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it's the song Too Old or Off of Too Old?
Yeah, the title track.
Okay, yeah, the one I'm thinking of is Matty Pryor off of Salamander's Ragtime, which is also Too Old era.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
Also,
it's probably
Stitch in Time off Stormwatch has.
Oh, that's
female
true.
chorus.
That's true.
Yeah.
Stitch in
Good
Time.
call, Joey. Wow.
I love that song.
Very good one.
All right, I am the victim now.
Yep. So this is match the lyric to the song. So I'm going to read a lyric, and then you tell me the title of the song it's from. And I made sure to pick all of my lyrics I have here. I picked very weird ones on purpose. So the lyric is, "Be sure to leave your underpants with someone you can trust."
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Someone you can trust. It's next to My God. It's off of Aqualung, isn't it? Oh man. Am I totally off, Nick?
You're
bit
not
later.
totally off.
A little bit later.
It's a bonus track from the Aqualung era.
Right. Two Fingers Clean.
You lick your fingers clean. Yeah.
Lick your fingers
Yeah,
clean.
it's
Sometimes called Two Fingers.
It's Two Fingers on Stormwatch. It's Lick Your Fingers
On
Clean.
War Child.
Or on Warchild, yeah.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, good call. Me to Joey, right?
Yep.
Okay, which absurd and amazing name did Ian Anderson not make up when bantering about the band to audiences? You know how he names all of his band members and he gives them all kind of like derivations and bastardizations about their names?
Uh-huh.
This one is legitimate. When he announces this player, it is their name.
So as in like it's their legal name.
It's their actual name. Yeah, it's their full name.
So I mean, I immediately think of Jeffrey Hammond, but I figure it's not that because that's not his actual legal name.
Exactly. Yeah. Both of his parents had the surname Hammond, and when Ian found that out, he started calling him Jeffrey Hammond.
It's not Martin Lancelot Barr, is it?
Lancelot is
That's it?
his actual name.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Barrymore Barlow is just Barry Barlow. Ian
Right.
tacked on the more. And, of course, John Glascock, he affectionately referred to as Brittle Dick.
Yeah.
You could always see him coming.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, goodness.
All right, Nick, your
Eugene,
turn.
this one I'm going to
Eugene.
get. I'm going to get it.
The credits of orchestral musicians on Divinities mention Nina Gressin on cello, Randy Wiggs on harp, Sid Gander on French horn, and Dan Redding on trumpet. Who are these people?
Oh, my goodness. I haven't the slightest.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that album.
Yeah, that's Ian's solo instrumental album that I believe he did for charity or something. Are those all like acronyms of actual band members?
Very close.
Or just
You are
acronyms
very
of
close.
D. Palmer? Is it D's name just mixed up every single time?
Divinities was recorded in, I think, 1994, 5, 3.
Yeah.
So D. Palmer did not play with Jethro Tull at that point. Another keyboards player did.
I don't know. I don't know the staff at that in that era. I don't know much
but
later.
you came incredibly close to noticing that these
Andy
names.
Giddings.
Yes,
There it is.
Wait, what?
these are names completely made up from letters in the name Andrew Giddings, and these people do not exist.
Wow, that's fun.
So who
never knew
played
that.
those instruments then?
It's all just sampling on done by Andrew Giddings. There are a couple real instruments credited to 2 real people.
Okay. And this was a solo album, right? This wasn't technically, or did it come out? It is in Ian. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Wow.
Eugene, I have one for you. This is actually a reverse trivia, so I'm going to give you the answer,
Okay.
and you tell me. So I'm going to give you a name, and you tell me who this person is. The name is Colonel Kerry Coleman.
It's
Colonel
Katie
Kerry
Coleman.
Coleman. Is it the mascot of Ian's fish and chip shop, based off his salmon farm?
That's an amazing answer. That is incorrect, but I love it. No, this is a real person. A real person. Colonel Kerry Coleman.
No, I do not
deep
know.
Stuff.
I have a guess.
Go for it. What is it?
My guess is that it's the hard-headed English general.
No. Again, this is a real person who's still alive, and it's So shall I tell you?
Yeah.
Nick knows because we
Please do.
covered this
Yeah,
recently.
I know the answer, yeah.
Colonel Carrie Coleman is a NASA astronaut, a female NASA astronaut.
Oh,
who
yeah.
played the flute, who actually took Ian Anderson's flute into outer space and played it in a duet with him of Beret from the International Space Station in 2011 in honor of the 50th anniversary of Yuri Gagarin's flight.
Yeah, you could see the video
Yeah,
on
fantastic.
YouTube. It's pretty good.
Mhm.
And-
Yeah.
Yeah,
And when
I've seen that video.
And it's funny because she says, I'm an amateur flautist. She has a band with other NASA astronauts and is an extremely proficient flautist.
She's very
Do
good.
they play
She's
space
yeah.
rock?
I would hope so.
I don't know. She also took a penny whistle from... She's had several famous musicians' instruments in outer space.
Took the penny whistle from the Chieftains, I believe.
The Chieftains, that was it. Thank you, yeah.
Okay, Omen. In the
Yes.
Thick as a Brick newspaper, what does the connect the dots puzzle draw? In other words, what would you see if you draw the connect the
it.
dots puzzle in the newspaper?
It's just cruel, Joey. I've never seen the Thick as a Brick album in the flesh, as it were. However, I do know that...
That's a good hint right there.
Oh, is it
in the
a
flesh.
penis?
Close.
I do know that rabbits are a theme which run throughout the album, throughout the both the album and the artwork. So I'm going to guess that it's a rabbit.
No.
Is it a butt?
It's a nude woman in the flesh.
Oh.
Yeah.
With, I believe,
That's
a
right,
duck
yeah.
lecherously, like,
It's
drooling
what
over her.
Fluffy the duck is looking at.
There you go.
Something for the kids. That's nice.
Yeah. And that feels on par with Ian's sense of humor at that time.
Yeah. Well, why are you saying at that time? I think
fair enough,
that
right,
hasn't
yeah.
changed.
I stand corrected. Let's see. Joey, who is credited with naming the Claghorn?
Jeffrey Hammond.
Correct.
Oh.
Jeffrey Hammond.
I'm
Yep.
4 for 4. I'm on fire.
Yeah, I made him way too easy, apparently. Oh, no, you didn't get the Lyricon Blues.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll take that one away from you.
That one was worth 10 points. So really, you're in the hole.
Oh, yeah. All right, Eugene, I'm going to get this one. If it's about a solo album, I'm not going to get it.
Okay. The question is, who came dangerously close to replacing Ian as frontman of Jethro Tull?
Mick Abrahams.
Replacing?
No?
Replacing.
Oh.
I thought it was Mick Abrahams too.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was the
No, but then it wouldn't be phrased like that because that implies that at some point later, because they both started out as the front men. So that implies that at a later date, someone could have replaced him. What a fascinating alternate universe possibility.
Is it Jimmy Page?
Did Jimmy Page ever sing?
No, probably not.
Give us a hint.
Nick is very close.
Oh, Robert Plant?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Oh, that would have been. I mean,
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's a story from the This Was booklet, I think, that Robert Plant jammed with Tull musicians at the request of the producer. I don't remember whether it was Terry Ellis specifically.
Wow.
And Ian was kind of floored by his delivery on vocals and harmonica.
Oh, of
so it was
course.
pre-flute even.
Wow.
And yeah, he was a little at the time he was a little bit scared that
Yeah.
well,
Robert
he's a
would
singer.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. Then, but this isn't pre-Zeppelin, right? So this is early Zeppelin, I imagine, like super early
I
Zeppelin
imagine
as well.
it was actually pre-Zeppelin.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is an alternate universe. But there's also, isn't there a quote of Ian saying that Boy Zeppelin would be great if we had their musicians and my lyrics?
Yes, he did say
Yeah,
that.
I forget what era that was, but it's they kind of intertwined and came dangerously close.
Well, and there's also the story of Martin recording the big solo in
Was it Aqualung? Or
in
Locomotive
Aqualung,
Breath?
and Robert Plant,
Jimmy Page
and Jimmy Page was looking in at the window and pulling a bunch of faces.
cheering
Yeah.
him on. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Martin's
In a way.
decision was either stop and say hi or finish rocking out on this solo.
One of the most iconic solos in rock history. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
Thank
funny.
goodness. Yeah.
All right, Eugene, I've got one for you.
Okay.
This should be an easy one. Named after a plant sacred to the ancient druids, which of Anderson's feline companions inspired the song "And the Mouse Police Never Sleeps"?
Or the plane sacred to ancient druids is the mistletoe. Was that the name of the cat?
That is correct. I mean, there were
Nice.
other plants sacred to the ancient druids, but yes, that's it. Well done.
That's the one famous for being such. Okay, yeah, I didn't remember the names of the cats though. I just got that out of the plant.
Yeah, yeah. It's good that he named all of his other cats off of after plants sacred to the druids. So he had Oak,
Oh, really?
Dutchman's pipes, and the root that's shaped like a cock. Yeah, weird names for cats, but
Yeah, well,
Just screaming it across the lawn just to get the cats to come in.
All right, Joey, one more for me.
Okay, this is another match the lyric. This will be final question. The lyric is, "Don't forget to urinate."
It's good advice, but I'm not certain. I feel like that must be later than where we are, because I feel like I would remember that.
Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell for me.
Yeah, I've got no clue. Oh, do you have another lyric from the same song?
I can try to think of one. "The wrong stuff's loose in here."
That's what my doctor keeps saying.
Don't forget to urinate. Wrong stuff's loose in here.
You're reading my medical discharge papers, aren't you, Joey? That's not a Tull lyric. No, I haven't got it. I'm sorry.
What album is it?
Let me ask Eugene first. I'm curious if
yeah.
Eugene knows this.
no, I think it must be something off of Under Wraps.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, that
I
sounds
had a
right.
feeling you guys wouldn't be able to get it. It's the song "Apogee" off Under Wraps.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
But that lyric has
Apogee.
always stuck with me as one of the all-time weird Tull lyrics.
Yeah.
It's up there.
Well, this has been delight. I've never played Jethro Tull Trivia with anyone before.
And I never will again.
Never say never.
I'm sure we will, yeah.
I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. This was something that we've been kind of, working towards and hoping to do for quite a long time. And I'm just really happy that both of our podcasts together, we were able to get together and kind of, create something for the fan community, make connections like I was talking about earlier. That's all that we're kind of in this for, I think. So, going forward, we're really looking forward to what you guys do. And we're really looking forward to kind of creating kind of a new path for the Tull fan community together.
This episode, like the Lyricon, is the bastard child of two podcasts left together in a dark room, and I think the world is better for it.
Sweet, sultry, hairy lovemaking has produced this. Well, thank you guys. It has been a pleasure and a joy. It was great to talk to you. It's great to mix minds.
Yeah.
And, can't wait to see where we both go, and maybe our paths will cross again.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well,
Thank you.
Good night, good afternoon, and good morning.
Good morning.
Good luck in your long, years-long quest to finish the discography. I think we're gonna hit the finish line a bit before you guys, but we'll both make it there.
Awesome.
Well, I
Thank
think
you.
that the real Tull is the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
A little bit of Ian inside
you.
of all of us.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Omen. Thank you, everybody who's listening, and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye now.
Awesome.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks.